welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Today we are here to take a look at the aftermath of the Pahalgam massacre. India has reacted, but so far there have been more or less diplomatic steps. What else can India do in response to this terror attack? The response should be long-term, not short-term. There are talks of another surgical strike. India has raised the bar, but what next? And also in terms of the global opinion, what should we've seen a lot of strong condemnation coming for this attack. It seems as if the global opinion is in India's favor. But there is the China factor. Where does Pakistan stand on that? What are the impacts? What we should do? To joining me in this discussion, I have with me Lieutenant General Dipinder Singh Hooda. He is a former general officer commanding in chief of the Army's Northern Command. He was, in fact, the Northern Army commander during the surgical strikes of 2016 also. And Sandeep Unithan, he's a defense editor and an author. He wrote a book on the three sieges of Mumbai and the Mumbai terror attack, Black Tornado, and Operation X. General, I will begin with you because you've seen it all really on ground. You've been there. First of all, what is your immediate reaction to the Pahalgam terror attack?
Yeah, the immediate reaction is, I think, as is in the rest of India, horrific sort of carnage. I mean, the only way to describe it is a massacre of innocent civilians. It's a very deliberate provocation, Priya. It's not something that we call an opportunity attack that, few terrorists roaming around have come and they find some unarmed tourists and kill them. It's been well planned. The site has been selected. The targets have been selected. And certainly, as the government has also pointed out, that the fingers are going back to Pakistan. So for them to do this is a very, very deliberate provocation.
Why do it now? Is it linked to Asim Munir's statement, for instance, talking about the jugular vein?
So I think there are many reasons. Firstly, Priya, if we look back, the last year and a half, we have seen an attempt to increase levels of terror activity in Jammu and Kashmir. We saw large-scale infiltration. The DGP Kashmir himself said that about 100 terrorists have infiltrated. These were people that were better trained, better armed than we had seen. They activated areas which were peaceful for decades, Katwa, Riasi, Doda, etc. So I think there has been an attempt to scale up the levels of activity. And this, again, is, as I said, a very deliberate provocation. Why have they done it? I think the Pakistan Army finds itself under tremendous pressure today because of what is happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Balochistan, particularly in Balochistan. And they have directly, indirectly sort of blamed India. There is also pressure from the Chinese side on Pakistan military to secure Chinese citizens and secure Chinese projects on the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Obviously, it does not suit. It does not suit Pakistan that things in Jammu Kashmir become better and normalized.
Yes.
And finally, Priya, personalities matter. General Asif Munir is not General Bajwa, and the kind of statements that are coming out. So I think all this combination is what has led to this carnage in Kashmir.
Sandeep, can I bring you in on this also? Your first reactions to the timing and of course the steps that we are taking.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Priya. The thing is that absolutely reprehensible terror attack and the cold-blooded, calculated way in which it was carried out, the choice of targets, the way they were segregated on the basis of religion, all the men were gunned down, and these were Indian civilians from the rest of India. There is literally north, south, east, west. It's a collection of 26 individuals from all parts of the country. So it was a very deliberate, cold-blooded, calculated terror attack in which civilians were targeted and civilians from outside of Jammu and Kashmir. So in a sense, Priya, I see this as a line being crossed because in the last couple of years, if you've seen even the 2016 Uri attacks where General Hooda was the Northern Army commander, and he initiated the surgical strikes. Even there, it was military targets that were chosen. 2016, you had military targets. 2019, it was a CRPF convoy that was targeted. But here in 2025, I see a shift in the pattern where the Pakistan military has chosen to target civilians who've come from all parts of the country. And as General Huda just mentioned, the fact is that they are in a crisis in Pakistan, whichever way you look at it, economically, politically, security-wise, the country is in flames. And across the border, you have Jammu and Kashmir, where peace and tranquility has returned over the last 5 years. Tourist numbers have surged. That is a barometer of the kind of peace and stability that you've seen in Kashmir. If there were 30 lakh tourists that had visited J&K in 2020, in 2024, you had something like 3.5 crore tourists that were visiting Jammu and Kashmir, and those numbers were set to surge in 2025 as well. And this is something that frightened the Pakistan military, because nothing scares the Pakistan military more than peace and tranquility. And this is why you had General Asim Munir doing this kind of a terror attack. And the timing of it, Priya, that it comes just in a week after that speech of his, where he will possibly go down in history as the first army chief to almost directly link himself to a major sensational terror attack targeting Indian civilians. He makes a speech, and 6 days later, you have this attack, which actually plays out the kind of vile communal filth that he was being spouting in Pakistan. That is exactly what played out in Pahalgam, Priya. So in a sense, I see this as a defining moment in the history of terrorism, Pakistan-sponsored, state-sponsored terrorism, Priya.
Okay. There's also the geopolitical timing. We know the vice president was visiting, our prime minister was in Saudi Arabia. What are the messaging that has sent out? And we talked a bit about China, Pakistan role. How will that, A, the messaging of the attack in terms of geopolitics, and B, our response? What all do we take into account?
Well,
General
Priya, the
Sandy.
time is really important because the US Vice President J.D. Vance was visiting India at the time of the attacks. Prime Minister Modi was visiting Saudi Arabia, which is a very key ally of India at the time of this attack. And they chose this attack precisely at a moment like this to tell the world that India is not safe. And the fact that General Asim Munir mentioned just 6 days before that Kashmir is our jugular vein, and he mentioned this. And a few days later, you have, these civilians being murdered in a very, very cold-blooded, chilling way. So multiple messaging from this attack, Priya. And this is deliberately chosen, targeted killing of civilians, because the Pakistan military wants to show that Jammu and Kashmir is not peaceful. It continues to be, a hotbed of terrorism. Peace and stability has not returned. And it is literally the raison d'etre of the Pakistan army is actually the Kashmir problem. If Kashmir were to settle into peace and stability, there would be no reason for the Pakistan military to exist. So this was literally, a battle for survival. And if you look at it a little bigger, the bigger picture that emerges, Priya, is that you have not only an army that is fighting for relevance within Pakistan, but the chief himself. Personalities matter, to quote General Huda. Personalities matter, and you have the personality of the army chief, who, like many other dictators before him, believes he is God's gift to Pakistan, and he's set out to fix all its problems. And the biggest problem that he sees is this so-called softening of Pakistan vis-a-vis India, which is why he's come out with this very bizarre logic of Pakistan being a hard state. And he's repeating that line over and over again. So if this is the kind of hard state that Munir envisages, where civilians are murdered in cold blood and there will be retaliation from India, then it actually only hardens his own position within Pakistan. That fact that he is, struggling for his own survival with Imran Khan, who is imprisoned, he's put him in jail. And the fact is that he's deeply unpopular. And for the first time, you have even hardcore backers of the Pakistan military who are not so well disposed towards the Pakistan army. And Imran Khan has got enormous sympathy. But, conflicts suit the Pakistan military. And this is exactly what Asim Munir seems to have wargamed with this very, very chilling, cold-blooded massacre of Indian civilians, which is going to, result in some kind of retaliation from India, as we all expect. Priya.
General Huda, that's my next question to you is that, retaliation suits the Pakistani army. Does it suit India? If we do a strike, maybe that is because they know now this is the norm. Earlier on, we never struck back. This time we do. Then are they ready for another strike? Should we get into that conversation or should we try some other options? General Huda.
Look, Priya, an incident has happened. It's a very, very big incident, as everybody is saying. It's a very deliberate provocation. So therefore, not doing anything is not an option, Priya. You have to send out a message. I mean, the 2016 and 2019 strikes were meant to send out a message that if there is a large terror attacks, there will be a response, and some costs will be imposed on Pakistan. And therefore, I think not doing anything is not an option. I think the military option is still on the table, despite whatever diplomatic steps have been taken. Uh, will one strike, and this is a question often asked, will one strike completely change Pakistan's behavior? And the answer is no. Uh, it won't, and therefore we need a sort of a persistent long-term strategy which combines diplomacy, international pressure, the use of military force, uh, to significantly deter Pakistan from doing what it is doing. But as I said, having said all that, an immediate message, an immediate signal needs to go out.
What is the long term? This is the short term. What is the long term in terms of, seeing other military and other options? Is POK, people are now, General Huda, talking about POK and Balochistan. Should India hit them where it hurts the most also? General Huda?
Look, I think where they will hurt the most is what India has done, that saying that it's holding the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. And in case, and they've linked it to the fact that Pakistan is using terrorism. So I think there are instruments. Can we? I know immediately after this, calls to retake Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. As a military officer, let me tell you, yes, it can be done. It will mean a Ukraine kind of war, which will carry on not for days and weeks, but perhaps for months and years. If you are willing to go that route, then it can be done. But I still would think, deterrence is a measure of capacities and capabilities and clear, credible communications going from our side. So I think a better option would be limited use of force, diplomatic pressure, get international pressure coming from, and be persistent and clear in your strategy, and continue to do this. Often, sometimes, we celebrate a single strike and then, uh, forget about the long-term sort of impact. So that's what I think, Priya, needs to be done.
Sandeep, your reaction, your views on what are the options ahead of us before India?
Priya, there is the short-term options which we've seen in the past as well, which are surgical strikes, air strikes. But as General Huda mentioned, I'm completely with this, that you need a long-term strategy to handle the Pakistan military, because we don't have a Pakistan problem. We don't have a people of Pakistan problem. We have a Pakistan military problem. And this is the military that controls nuclear weapons, it controls foreign policy, it controls the politicians, it controls everything in Pakistan. And this military is somehow addicted to the use of terrorism as an instrument of state policy. It's been doing so for the last 4 decades, ever since they got nuclear weapons, and they evolved this bizarre strategy of the sword and shield strategy of nuclear weapons enabled terrorism, where they use shield of nuclear weapons to hide the sword of terrorism, and they've been using this against all their neighbors. There are very few countries in the world, Priya, which are in the state that Pakistan is in today, where they have 4 neighbors, they share land borders with 4 neighbors, and 3 of those 4 neighbors have directly accused them of harboring, sheltering terrorists and using terrorism as an instrument of state policy: Iran, Afghanistan, and India. China is possibly the only country which is a close ally of Pakistan, which has not accused them of sheltering terrorists, but it has sent them messages on how they need to crack down on domestic terrorism. So this is a military that is somehow very strangely addicted to the use of terrorism. It sanctions, it shelters these terrorist groups. But the important point about these attacks, Priya, is that for the first time, the Pakistan military is being directly called out for a terror attack. And it's no longer any of those cutout groups like the Lashkar or the Jaish or the Terrorist Resistance Front and all of those cutouts that the Pakistan military has used to protect itself from harm or from a direct attack. But so literally the mask has now fallen with this attack, and the timing of Japanese speech and this very sensational attack has kind of implicated the Pakistan military in such a way. So whatever we need to do, Priya, a long-term strategy has to involve deterring the Pakistan military from using terrorism. And that is something that we have to work out, not only by ourselves, but to get the rest of the international community on board as well. Because the Pakistan military and the Pakistan defense minister, we just heard him yesterday talking this again, spouting this bizarre thing of, we did it for the West many decades ago, so therefore it is okay to do it now. I mean, they need to be told very in no uncertain terms that what you did in the past is terrorism. Absolutely cannot be an instrument of state policy. And this is something that the government of India has kept reiterating, that there cannot be any talks with Pakistan till they abjure the use of terrorism. And this is something that the world needs to be united in on, Priya, and we need to take the lead on this, because what is going to happen is that every couple of years, you're going to have this, you will have Uri, you will have a Pulwama, and you will have a Pahalgam. So there is only one for us to act decisively to ensure that the Pakistan military realizes that it cannot use terrorism against its neighbors, least of all India.
I'm going to take a quick break and come back and keep the conversation going, but stay with us. Hello and welcome back to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. We're here discussing India's options after the Pahalgam massacre. We've already had some diplomatic options, but military action, geopolitical response, those are the things that we are discussing. General Huda, I agree with you. You laid out a case in terms of, that some consistent, India cannot take this lying down also in terms of military. Globally, how are you seeing the response? Where we are placed today. Will the US support us? China will probably support Pakistan.
Look, we've already seen, Priya, the kind of international condemnation that has come of this terror attack. Support for India has poured in from all different countries. And as we have seen in the past, any action that India takes against terrorists largely has international support. India has the right to respond in case of major terror incidents that are happening in India. So I see international support for whatever action India takes. As far as China is concerned, I don't see China sort of completely aligning itself with Pakistan in this case. The fact is, openly China is not going to come out and say, fine, we are okay with Pakistan using terrorists against India. So yes, in some international forums like the UN, etc., they might stave off some pressure from Pakistan. But I don't see China also openly coming out and saying, we are fine with what has happened. So there are going to be limits to also Chinese support to Pakistan, particularly in this case. Yeah.
Yes. Sandeep, your reaction to China, how do you perceive China's role? If you want to add something.
Well, Priya, China is a responsible power, much as I hate to say this, but when it comes to overtly supporting Pakistan, especially on the issue of terrorism, I don't think that want to be associated with Pakistan in that sense. But I would see the Chinese kind of leaning on the Pakistan establishment at some point to kind of tell them that, look, these kind of attacks could vitiate the atmosphere, especially at a time when China is trying to, quote Indian investments. It needs India very, very desperately because of the trade war that is on with the United States. So Pakistan can offer nothing to China economically. It is, at best, it's a second-rate ally, which is literally going down the tube, and it's actually being supported by China. It has its uses, but given a time when China is in the middle of a very, very intense trade war with United States, what role Pakistan can play for China remains debatable. So I don't think that Chinese would come out in support of Pakistan, because it doesn't suit their interests at the moment. Because, like I said, it's coming at a time when China is cozying up to India, because it wants to get India on its side when it's fighting this very bruising trade war with Trump. And Xi Jinping has got his mind occupied with many other things apart from the trade war. There is, of course, the issue of Taiwan. So Pakistan doesn't figure prominently right now in China or Xi Jinping's calculus. It's at best an irritant at the present moment. Priya.
Okay, General Huda, you had said personalities do play a role, and we heard one of the terrorists say कि मोदी को जाके बताना. So, is there a provocation to where the Prime Minister is concerned? Also, it's a direct one. It's also, is it personal also, General
Absolutely, it
Huda?
is. It is personal. I think Pakistan knows that Prime Minister Modi is very tough on issues of terrorism, on issues of national security. Uh, the reason, Priya, I mentioned initially is that this is a very delicate provocation. Is, as Sandeep also has brought out, the manner in which uh, pe- people from the Hindu community were segregated. Uh, some were asked to, recite some religious Slavic texts. Uh, the deliberate shooting of males, leaving the women aside, and the reference to Modi. Uh, these are all very, very provocative acts, and which is why I also mentioned this is not a chance encounter. This is not something that has suddenly happened. It's something that has been planned. I dare say we are hearing the fact that these people had helmet-mounted cameras, uh,
Hmm.
and if these photographs or videos, subsequently emerge, that's again going to bring in a lot of anger and anguish in the rest of the country. So yes, and the reference to the prime minister is just a part of this. Yeah.
So, Sandeep, how do you see the Prime Minister's response? As also a political, you're also a political watcher and a journalist. So, in terms of the Prime Minister's response, his body language, in terms of he gave a rhetoric a speech in Bihar, but he spoke in English, so he's also speaking to the global audience. So in that sense, your analysis of that.
Absolutely, Priya. The fact that, as you pointed out, he spoke in English, that message was meant for the international community, and that there would be decisive action against Pakistan in the days to follow. And the fact is that, given the kind of support that we have, there's this outpouring of support across the world. Uh, it stands to reason that India will retaliate in the days ahead. There is going to be a counterstrike against targets in Pakistan. We don't know, of course, how and when that is going to happen, but there will be a kind of military retaliation, as they have been in the past in 2016 and 2019. And obviously, this time it is going to be far more intense, because of the national outpouring of anguish about these attacks. There are families, there are 26 families that are grief-stricken even as we speak. They're cremating their loved ones. There is an outpouring of international sympathy. And more importantly, Priya, there is a kind of disgust with terrorism globally, not only in Asia, but also in Europe, where you have several such terror attacks. It's the number one problem that's affecting Europe. If it's not the economic downturn, then it is terrorism, where you have these lone wolf attacks, many of which are being traced back to Pakistan. So there is a certain sense of international outrage about terrorism, specifically terrorism being used as an instrument of state policy. And this is for Prime Minister Modi. He knows the time is right now. He's going to pick and choose a time to retaliate, a counter-strike option that's going to come very quickly, where the Pakistan military will be told in no uncertain terms that they cannot continue using terror as an instrument of state policy. Priya.
And on that note, thank you so much, General Huda and Sandeep Punithan, for this conversation. Unfortunately, the way things are, we'll be having a lot more of such conversations. But for now, thank you for helping us understand the impact and what our options are. Thank you.
Thank you, Priya.
Thank you, Priya.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.